You may be aware that browsers have a developer console, which allows you to type or paste in a small snippet of JavaScript, and it will run that code in whatever web page you're in. This snippet simply sets the background of page elements to a random pastel color. What fewer people know is that you can also save that same little snippet of JavaScript as a bookmark, which can then be run on any web page simply by clicking it. These are called bookmarklets, or as I call them, sniplets, and they've been around since the earliest days of the web. Now, even fewer people seem to know that those little snippets of JavaScript don't actually have to be little anymore. For instance, here's one that's 1,000 lines of code, and it's actually useful. It allows me to draw on any web page using smooth SVG curves with a nice shadow. I can set the color, I can undo, etc. By no means a large app, but it isn't a tiny snippet either. Now, I've found the real power of these is when you combine them with ChatGPT or Claude and have it write the code for you simply by speaking plain English. That's what my SnipletBuilder environment is about. In ChatGPT, it is comprised of a GPT called SnipletBuilder. And you should not be surprised that it also uses a sniplet that runs right in the ChatGPT page. It's ideal for people new to coding that like instant gratification, since you can make useful or at least amusing things right off the bat. And it's particularly cool that you can run your creations right on the ChatGPT conversation page as you develop them. They're super easy and quick to make. I've made hundreds of them and I use them constantly. So let me show you how to use it to build something that, while it isn't going to be useful per se, it should entertain your eyes. Okay, let's go into SnipletBuilder. And I'm going to just dictate something, and I'm going to ramble for a while in plain English and see what it comes up with. I would like you to make a dialog box that has a couple buttons in it. Each button will start an animation, and it will function as a toggle. So it's going to start off saying start, and when pushed, say end. One of the buttons is going to start an animation that runs inside the dialog box, and one of them is going to start an animation that appears outside the box on the rest of the page. And the first one's going to be fairly simple. It's just going to do something colorful and bouncy inside the dialog box. Maybe bounce an element around. And the second one is going to do something more specific. It's going to go look for a random SVG on the web page, and it's going to copy it and modify it and place it at a random position within the visible part of the web page, and then animate it moving to another part of the page, and after a few seconds it will fade out. I want you to change the color of all the elements, such as paths within it, to a random bright color, and I want you to make them a little bit blurry, and I want you to make the SVG itself bigger, like 200 pixels square. The blur that you apply should be a nice simple blur. I want you to create a new one every second until you stop the animation process, and then it will stop creating new ones, but we'll let the existing ones play out. So let's send that and see what it comes up with. Now that was just, like I said, that was plain English, but I know a little bit about SVGs and that you can blur the elements within them. They have paths within them. But it's just doing all the technical stuff. It creates a animation dialog class, which is what I want it to do. It's using functions I've told it about to make this really simple. Now I'm going to run this sniplets bookmarklet, otherwise known as a sniplet. It's a meta sniplet. Sniplet for making sniplets. And you'll notice it adds a few items to the page. And then I'm going to, let's give it a name, animation box. And we'll pull this up here onto my bookmarks toolbar and run it. And now we've got this little dialog box. It's maybe a little bigger than it needed to be, but okay, we can start an animation within it. We could stop that. We could start one outside of it, and let's see what it comes up with. Here we've got little colorful, blurry things, which is kind of my style these days. And they're just moving about exactly as I told it to do. That's pretty much precisely what I wanted. Let's see if we can make it a little bit more interesting. So I'm going to do another addition to it here. and I'm just going to build on top of what it is. Okay, I'd like to make a couple enhancements, and please don't rewrite the whole thing. Just change what's needed. I want you to make it so that the SVG elements that are moving across the web page, they move until they bounce on one of the walls of the web page. We're working within the currently visible area of the web page, and we want them to bounce off the wall when it hits it, reverse its direction in either X or Y. And I also want them to do a few full rotations, either clockwise or counterclockwise, while they are animating and before they fade out. I think that was enough to just got the idea. I just want it to be a little bit more interesting animation where it bounces off the walls and it rotates them. So let's see if it does it. And we never know. I like it. That's kind of cool. It's a little faster than I expected it to be spinning them, but hey, it does the trick. It's bumping into the scroll bars here to make it a little jiggly, which I don't like, but let's just make sure it stops when I tell it to stop. It should stop creating new ones, and the old ones should go away. Now, before I wrap up, let me show you that one more thing we can do is edit the code within these boxes if we want to. Now, normally you shouldn't have to, but I want to show that here I'm going to fix that little glitch with it bumping into the sides by just giving a little more space. It gives 200 pixels extra space, but that's not enough when it's spinning because the corners go outside of that. So rather than try and tell it to fix that, I'm just going to fix it myself. And I'm also going to change the rotation amount to 3 degrees instead of 10 degrees. These are really easy to find. It commented the code up well enough that we can find that. And let's see if it does any better. And it doesn't seem to be bumping the edges. So I am liking that. And by the way, one more thing. Notice that this also works in other websites. The font's a little different size in my box here, but works just fine right here in YouTube. It's using different SVGs because they use different SVGs on the site. But these bookmarklets, snippets, they work in pretty much any website. And that's the power of them. You can also save them off to files and things like that, but I think this is enough just as an intro.